Public hearing. TIF proposal for Seton Hospital. Steve?
This is a series of two public hearings that you're going to be conducting tonight. The first is a proposal to alter the configuration of the existing Seton Hospital Economic Development TIF. The second will be to consider creating an affordable housing TIF using around the tower building of the Seton Hospital. So the applicant is here, the applicant's attorney is here, and she'll make a presentation. The TIF committee chair, Councilor Frankie, also has some comments and recommendation from the TIF committee. And it's your meeting, sir.
All right. Claude, you want to? Is it? Yeah, it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
Okay. The council is being asked tonight to amend the tax increment financing district for the former Seton Hospital building. When the district was formed in 2017, it encompassed the whole building and adjacent parking lot and had a 20-year duration. The percentage of captured revenue to be shared with the developer was scheduled to be 70% in 2023, declining to 0% in 2037. It is proposed that the original district be amended by splitting off the tower and part of the parking lot, which is to be included in a new affordable housing TIF district. The remaining portion of the original district would continue to adhere to the terms of the original district, although the term would be extended to 2047. Developer has estimated that once development occurs, there would be a $1 million increase in assessed value captured by the TIF district. Over the remaining duration of the district at the current mill rate, $620,000 would be collected to be shared between the developer, $124,000, and the city, $496,000. The developer has proposed creating a new affordable housing district for the tower portion, which would provide 67 units of affordable housing, as defined by federal housing regulations. The developer is requesting a 30-year duration with captured revenue being split 50-50 with the city. The developer has estimated that once development occurs, there would be a $5 million increase in assessed value captured by the TIF district. Over the remaining duration of the district at the current mill rate, approximately $3,748,000 of increased revenue would be captured and allocated to the TIF program. The developer's proposal shares this allocation between the developer, $1,874,000, and the city, $1,874,000. This amounts to a subsidy to the developer of approximately $65,000 per year. The city proposes to allocate its annual share of captured revenue this way: a quarter to support schools, a quarter for public safety and infrastructure, and half to create a revolving loan program for affordable housing. After reviewing these proposals from the developer, the TIF committee voted to recommend that council approve the amendment to the original district, i.e. carve out the tower and extend the term. The committee also voted to recommend the formation of the new affordable housing district with the new credit enhancement agreement. Thank you.
And we are talking about two separate projects, and we're talking about one at this moment, and then we'll talk about the other one here in a few minutes when we're done with this public hearing.
The first is the amendment to the TIF.
Okay. Reagan, good?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I first was wondering, I believe that Kevin Mattson was going to be trying to join us via Zoom, so if he's there, if we could let him in, that would be wonderful.
He's coming in now.
Okay.
Mr. Mattson, can you hear us? You're muted, sir.
I can. Thank you very much.
Great.
Great, thank you. So as Councillor Frankie just gave a great summary of the project, I'm happy to answer any additional questions you might have about the economic development TIF. Specifically, the changes to this district include removing 4.02 acres of the original TIF district, which was 9.11 acres, and that will be put into a separate TIF district. The remaining 5.09 acres would be part of the original municipal TIF. That portion of the district would retain its original value from 2017 that was frozen at that time. There has been no new value generated in that district to this point. The other change, I believe, was that the city has requested that the duration of this district be extended for an additional 10 years. So the district would now terminate in July of, or June of 2047. If there are any additional questions for this amendment, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Councilor Frankie.
Just as a matter of course, the extension of the time limit for the district primarily has to do with what's called the tax shift. I don't want to get into all of the complicated details of that, but it has to do with the the city's relationship with the state in terms of how they look at the taxable property of the whole city.
Right. Yes, and that last 10 years of the district, the city would be retaining all of the new taxes in that district as TIF revenues.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public? All right, moving on to the next public hearing.
So do we want to close this public hearing and open the second?
Yes.
All right, so moved.
So the second public hearing is the creation of the affordable housing TIF?
Yes. Reagan, you want to lead us off?
Sure. I'll just say, hopefully that Councillor Frankie's description can be transferred over to the second hearing, because it was a very good one. I'm actually going to start, because I don't think the council has heard about this proposal with the portion of the property that is being removed from this original municipal TIF district and being put into an affordable housing TIF. So if you don't mind, I'll have Kevin Mattson, who is joining us via, he's even on the screen, via Zoom today, to kind of describe what the plans are for that Seton Tower.
Good, Kevin.
Thank you. And I just want to first ask if you can hear me okay?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, fantastic. And thank you, Patty, for sending me the link. And I wished I could be there with you in person. I have two teenagers who have contracted various illnesses. So I'm the next to fall, and I just didn't think it was fair to subject you to it. So I appreciate being able to participate via Zoom. So as Reagan said, we've taken the old hospital, the Seton Hospital, and we've divided it into two different pieces, the building. We first went to the planning board to legally do this separation and subdivision. And the tower portion, the 8-story portion of the building, is going to be converted into 67 units of affordable housing. This is a program under Maine Housing that's a 4% credit, a little different than the program being used for Lockwood down the street. This one is targeted really at workforce housing. So the average rent of a one-bedroom would be a little over $900. Those are the Maine housing guidelines. And a two-bedroom would be a little over $1,000. And it really is targeted at people who are unable to get into the rental pool because there's not a lot available, and what is can be very expensive. So towns hiring new policemen, teachers, sometimes can have a hard time finding something in that price range. And this is specifically designed to tailor to that group of people. So it will be at 60% the rents of the area median income. We hope to start work as soon as Maine Housing gives us the go-ahead. They're reviewing an energy study on the building. The back of the building that is not in the affordable housing TIF has been under construction for about 9 months, mostly abatement, but there's been a large crew in the building. Right now, natural gas is being hooked up, so there's a lot of work happening there after really nothing happening for a long time. But essentially, that's what we're doing, 67 units of housing, and we hope to have this placed in service in 2024. I'm happy to take any questions.
Counselor.
Mr. Manchin, what is the typical square footage of one of these units, the 67 units that you're referring to?
On average, they're about 600 square feet. It's a historic rehabilitation project, so we have to work within the restrictions of the National Park Service. So we have to keep most of the main features of the building, including hallways, certain critical rooms like the old chapel that was there. And so it's like a Rubik's Cube. You have to work within these areas that you have to keep. But the architect is good at that. And they're, to answer your question, mostly one bedrooms, 55 one-bedroom apartments, and they average about 600 to 650 square feet. They have to meet Maine housing requirements, so there's very specific detail about the size of kitchens, bathrooms, that type of thing. And the two bedrooms would be 900 square feet, 850.
So primarily targeting individuals or married couples without children?
Primarily.
Anyone else?
Maybe I'll ask Councilor Green to talk about what the demographics are in terms of Waterville. Do we really need more housing?
Well, in a word, yes, we do. Yes, is the answer to that, the quick answer. I'm happy that this project's coming forward. We, the Housing Committee, heard from Mr. Mattson, over a year ago now, about the project, and it has morphed a few times, I think. We do need housing at all levels in Waterville, so it's absolutely a wonderful project, and if this helps it come online, it's a win-win, because the city obviously will have more housing. We'll also we will have more tax revenue, and the fact that we're sharing with the developer is a great thing, because it's a good project. So I'm all for it.
Agreed. I'm happy that something's being done there.
Well, just one other question. The city's contemplating the tax increment financing district, which is a subsidy for your project. But I don't think $65,000 a year is going to pay for everything. So you're still bearing the main burden of the cost. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah, and the costs of the project have ballooned over the last 4 years, like any other project. It started at about 12 million, and just the tower portion is now at 25 million. So it's a very difficult environment. That inflationary pressure seems to be easing a little bit, but the last 24 months have seen 20%, 25% increases annually. And this is critical to help make these numbers work.
All right. Well, I, for one, am happy to see a building that hasn't been doing anything for quite some time start to become something again. Thank you, Mr. Mattson.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing, and that is regarding the uses of the funds that will be generated from this TIF, the tax revenues for the city. There were a couple of different categories. One of them is this revolving home loan fund, which is something new that we've been talking about, and that will support yet more development of housing in the city that we, you know, from a revenue source that we don't have right now, and it will, so that will magnify the amount of housing that we can generate out of this project. There are some other things mentioned here, funding the schools, and I forget,
Public safety.
public safety, yeah. So a nice range of things. The amounts of money are flexible. So as we go through the next 30 years, we can determine, based on the needs of the city, how we will be able to spend that money, which is also a good thing.
Flexibility does help.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, can I get a motion to end the public meeting?
Thank you.
All right, 10-minute recess till regular meeting. Good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pocket near the entrance or online on the City of Waterville's website. All items listed under unfinished business or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must identify themselves or speak at the podium. Each citizen will be allowed one opportunity to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes. Finally, councilors will be given another opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the beginning of the meeting. All right, we have a discussion, use of ARPA funds. Councilor Green.
Okay, so it has been a while since the council has discussed ARPA funds, and so thought it was a good time to bring back the discussion. I think we left it off in during budget season that we would let the ARPA committee know following the budget what we wanted to do with the funds. So tonight we're going to talk about that a little bit. We do have an item on the agenda. Just to recap where we are, we have approximately 1.7 million in total, and we have obligated 842,000 to date. So we have about half of those funds left. The ARPA committee did meet about a week ago, and the subject came up again, as it did last year, about how to support homeless and unstably housed people through the winter, particularly with the unstable housing market, rising rental rates, inflation, all kinds of things going on. So the committee voted to recommend that the council take $100,000 of the funds remaining and put it into the general fund for use by the city for emergency responses to homelessness this winter. And I think this is a great way to use these funds, because we actually really don't know exactly what the need will be and what needs will emerge. So this gives the city a lot of flexibility. At health and welfare, for instance, there will be people who don't qualify for general assistance, but we can help them out with these funds because they won't be coming out of the usual funding streams. So we'll have more flexibility, but Denise in health and welfare knows very well the population and where the needs are and should be met. There could be other things that come up. We've talked a lot about different responses, such as emergency shelter, and so these funds could help to pay for those things without having to go through council and have 2 votes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the recommendation that's on the table tonight, later on in the agenda. But I also wanted to just propose the idea that we take or set aside, I should say, another $500,000 of the funds that remain and designate them to housing projects, including the land bank program, which is under discussion right now, and the revolving home loan fund that we mentioned earlier in connection with the TIF. That leaves about $242,000 left. These funds have to be obligated by December 24. So we do have quite a long time frame still for obligation, and then they have to be spent by December 2026. But I just would like to hear from my fellow councilors about your thoughts on the topic.
Well, I'll weigh in to say that I think it's a good idea to start to think about how to obligate the ARPA funds, and since I think what we're doing tonight, putting 100,000 in with that will be essentially a cushion for the health and welfare department to manage whatever comes down the pike this winter, and we don't know what that's going to be yet. As far as the other allocations, I think it's a good idea to start thinking about how to get all this money earmarked, because we don't want to give any of it back.
Flavia?
Oh, no, I also agree. I do think that's a great idea to put it towards the health and welfare. Yeah, pretty much just agreeing with Council Frankie just said and what the chair just said.
I believe that Katie Spencer-White, the executive director of the homeless shelter, Mid-Maine Homeless Shelter, is with us tonight too, and this is a good opportunity to hear from her about how the funds have been used so far. If she's online.
Yes, I will promote her. Katie, can you hear us okay?
I can.
Great.
Hello, good evening.
Go ahead.
So thank you for having me. Steve Daly reached out to me last week and asked me to share some information on the homeless situation in Waterville and how we have utilized some of the ARPA funding that was allocated to us this time last year. So I think that's pertinent to the conversation that Councilor Green has teed up, in part because it makes sense to use data to drive the decisions that we're making, particularly as we look at utilizing taxpayer dollars. So I'm going to go through some things very quickly and then also target just at a high level in terms of homeless data. And then I'll talk specifically about how we're utilizing the ARPA funds thus far. So it's important to recognize that in the state of Maine, according to our most recent data, when we do a point in time count in January, there are approximately 4,500 people on any given night experiencing homelessness. For us in Waterville this year, we have served 251 unique guests in our shelter programs. We run two shelter programs. The first is our year-round program that has 48 beds. We have a 92% bed utilization rate, which is the highest in the state. 48 standard beds plus 2 that we target specifically at youth experiencing homelessness. We also have in winter from the 1st of November until the 31st of March, our winter warming center, where we target between 10 and 15 guests a night. This season, we have been between 5 and 17. Our average is hovering around 14, which is higher than what we were doing this time last year. We also have seen that of the guests that we have had in our shelter programs combined, they have access to case management and housing navigation services. And our target is our target is to have an average length of stay of 30 days. That's been blown out of the water across the country. We're no different. Currently, our average length of stay in shelter is 80 days, and it continues to trend upward. Based in part, I was listening to the prior conversation. We have a vacancy rate in Kennebec County of less than 3%, which tells you the dire nature of our rental housing situation. But when we are able to rehouse a guest of our shelter programs, we have a 94% success rate, which means 6 months after leaving shelter, they are still successfully housed. One of the key sources of funding that we've received this year, both from Maine Housing and from Waterville, is diversion funds. That is intended to keep people from having to enter the shelter system. We have served so far from January to the present 211 households with diversion funds. 78% of those folks that we have served with diversion have come from Waterville specifically. And 20 households we have utilized the ARPA funding specifically to divert them from coming into shelter. And our average spend per person is $511, which I think is pretty good value for money when you consider that the average cost to stay in a shelter is over $2,000 a month, and it's much higher if you were to utilize a hotel. So $511 per person feels like great value for money. As of 12/20, we have used just over $22,000 of diversion funding provided to us by the ARPA funding from the city of Waterville. To give you a breakdown of how we've spent that, 81% went to rental assistance, 13% went to other financial assistance, and then 4.4% was allocated to security deposits, and just over 1% for relocation assistance. That's for folks who are able to go and stay with a friend or a relative. We're able to help them access or get to those locations. Waterville also supplied us with some money for case management. So far, we have served 20 people. The average spend there is $515, and we do have capacity to expand those case management services, and we are open to receiving referrals. The last program that Waterville funded was our master leasing program. We received those funds at the beginning of September. Our compliance checks were completed in October. We have leased premises to run this and a couple of other programs. We are opening a new business office on College Avenue at the old Foss building, right across from the post office. Our staff are moving in on the 12th of January. We have hired the program manager, and we're hiring a couple additional staff to run those programs. And the master lease is currently being drafted. We intend to target the plan has always been to secure 20 units using master leasing. Our goal is to expand our currently very successful YES program, which stands for Youth Empowerment Supports. We have 11 units above the Colby Street shelter. That is targeted at young people 18 to 24 years of age who don't have any rental history and oftentimes struggle to get into housing. So we're going to target the first 10 units to expanding that YES program. It is a kind of permanent supportive housing program. And we're looking to get our first young people leased up in the first quarter of 2023. Finally, I wanted to mention a couple of other programs that we're using to expand our services for the citizens of Waterville and Kennebec County. The first one is we were lucky to secure a significant contract with Maine Housing to provide a rapid rehousing program that's targeted at households who have been made circumstantially homeless. They've just entered the system, and utilizing financial landlord incentives, landlord recruitment, et cetera. The goal is to turn folks back around very quickly into permanent housing. It also provides ongoing support as necessary. Finally, we are also adding what's called a Section 91 health home model, which is going to target long-term stayers and folks who are chronically homeless. It is a main care program, and it will provide greater wraparound supports to that small population of people who have been in shelter for over 180 days or have had multiple episodes of homelessness in the last 2 years. So the goal is to be have a range of services to meet everybody's needs, targeting those needs to specific populations, and importantly, make sure that we have a good handle on the numbers of people who are both currently experiencing homelessness and are also housing insecure. And importantly, those diversion funds have done an amazing job at helping keep people in their homes. there's a bill, just for, if you're not aware of it, LD3, which is going to have a public hearing tomorrow at the state legislature. Utility assistance and rental assistance is going to target both of those programs that have ended of late or need to be further funded. We have been able to do that here in Waterville in ways that other communities have not. And thankfully, as a result of that, our numbers of households experiencing literal homelessness, I think, are significantly lower than they are in other communities. So I'll pause there and happily take questions.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for that. One thing that I wonder is if you could describe for me the distribution of family structures in the people that you serve. So what percentage are solo individuals and couples with children, individuals with children, how many children, just getting a sense of what that looks like. And then behind that is me just trying to think about what kinds of housing needs are most appropriate, housing resources most appropriate to meet the needs of the population.
Yeah, there's not a single, there are multiple populations of people experiencing homelessness. In our shelter programs, whether that's the year-round program or the warming center, we're currently only serving adults. Now, whether or not they are couples or not, we don't necessarily track that. But they are, all of those individuals in the shelter program are individuals, adults. And we also, as I mentioned, have some space to specifically target young people and hopefully get them transitioned into our YES program where that's possible. We've really targeted diversion, and now we're adding rapid rehousing to that toolkit because shelter is just not a great environment. It's a woefully inadequate environment for households with children. I chair the COC's Committee on People with Lived Experience of Homelessness because I have been a mom who experienced homelessness. And so anything that we can do to either keep them in their current housing or quickly transition them from a general assistance hotel stay, for example, back into permanent housing is well worth that investment. I don't have off the top of my head how many of the clients, I haven't tabulated, I should say. I could get that back to you though, Counselor. By the end of today, I could get those numbers to you in terms of how many households with children we have served specifically.
Anyone else? Oh, Councilor Gray.
Katie, I'm just wondering if you could just summarize the difference between the rapid rehousing program and the master leasing program for us.
Yeah, so the difference is in one, we sublet. In master leasing, we are the tenants of record and we sublet those units. And then we manage the tenancy just the way that we do for our current, we are a landlord, we have those 11 units. So the key difference is that master leasing, we lease from a landlord and then we sublet to our guests or our clients. With the rapid rehousing, we engage with landlords, we provide financial incentives, but the lease is between the landlord and the tenant. We're just the broker, if you will.
Great, thank you. And you said you are, for the master leasing program, you're looking to lease 20 units in total? Was that right?
Yeah, we targeted 20 units. We broke it down by year one. We wanted to have 10 units leased up, and in year two, we wanted to have 10 additional units. And then over the course of the years, we were looking at the populations that we see in Waterville. There is an acute need. We see this in our YES program. We get requests for referrals for young people to access our units that do not come back on market. Once we lease somebody up, they stay with us for quite some time. So that niche market of young people who've left the foster care system, other systems, or who are not able to stay with their families of origin. And of course, that's the population of folks that don't qualify for general assistance either. You have to be 25 or older in order to receive general assistance. So we feel we've got expertise in this particular market, and that it is a subpopulation that is woefully underserved by other systems currently. So we think it's a good place for us to start.
Great.
All right. And that just,
Looks like Flavia has her hand.
oh, go ahead, Flavia.
Oh, I got a question for you, Katie. Well, and also thank you very much. And the YES program, I actually have friends that stayed upstairs, and I think it's a very well-run program. I got a question for you, though. Like, what is the increase of youth between 18 and 24? Has it been like a big increase this year versus previous years?
Yeah, we are seeing significant increases in young people experiencing housing instability. Very often they're not caught by the homeless services system because there are so few youth serving programs. Many young people prefer to couch surf, which meets a definition of homelessness, but it also means that they're not picked up by the HUD system, if you will. But in my conversations and collaborations with colleagues in other systems, DHHS specifically, we know that there's a tremendous increase in housing instability and homelessness for young people. This is part of the pandemic after effects that we're seeing housing instability writ large. Very often the older children are the first ones to either get turfed out or they leave on their own because they don't want to continue to be an economic burden, or the stresses on the family are so acute that they go out on their own. It also means that they're quite vulnerable to exploitation, abuse, trafficking, etc. So again, because they're not served by other systems, specifically general assistance, and that is not specific to Waterville, that's part of the legislation, we wanted to serve that population first.
And thank you very much for that. I do appreciate you taking the 11 houses from the master lease and delegating it to that population. I really think that's a really nice mixture of helping not only the adults, but also the youth.
And we think it'll encourage landlords to take the chance on a young person that they might not otherwise take, knowing that we are there to manage that tenancy for them. We think it'll encourage a lot of landlords who do want to do good in the world to take that, just mitigate that risk just a little bit and encourage them to take a chance on a young person, give them their start in life.
Yeah, guidance, that's important. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Disclosure of conflict of interest. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to council committees.
Well, I already read my statement from the TIF committee, and when we get to that subject again, I can read it again if you think that would be a good idea.
All right. Any other committees? All right. City manager's report.
I have just 3 or 4 things I want to mention. I have 3 or 4 things that I want to mention tonight. First, the presentation that you were supposed to get last week or at the last meeting from Competitive Energy Services has been rescheduled for January 17th. And I'm happy to report that the Public Works Department is going to be working with Center Volunteers on Lehman Island this Thursday to do a pretty significant cleanup of the debris that's been left there. In addition to that, we've had inquiries from surrounding communities about Waterville's interest and capacity to assist them with emergency 911 ambulance service. There are 4 communities that have approached us at this point, just inquiring, But in order for us to evaluate our capacity to do that and to come back to the council with a recommendation as to which direction to move in, I'd like to ask that you assign 2 counselors to work with us so that they have a good understanding of the details and the depth of the analysis that we're having to go through. And then finally, I want to mention to you that on January 24th, 27th, and February 1st, there are 3-hour trainings available to local officials, both elected and appointed, who, if they complete this training, it will elevate our capacity or our eligibility for a variety of federal grants and funding opportunities. This is what's called NIMS training. The training is going to be on what the role of the executive level and the legislative level in a community is during a declared emergency. So when the Emergency Operations Center is open, you'll be learning about what role you will have in that process and during those events. This is required for FEMA funding, so I would encourage you all to do whatever you can to make it to these trainings. The trainings are being held both here and in Augusta and China. And I've given you all a flyer on that, and I would hope that you can attend.
Go ahead, Claude.
I signed up for the Waterville session on January 24th just this afternoon. It was pretty easy to do.
Anyone else? All right, moving on to.
Well, I was just wondering about the process of designating counselors to the committee that you recommended. Should we get that on the agenda for next time?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I just wanted to follow up on the process for assigning counselors to the committee that you, or the working group that you mentioned regarding
Well,
emergency services.
Yeah, the working group is an administrative level team that's going to be evaluating this, and I think that if 2 counselors were to volunteer, or even 1 counselor was to volunteer, then that would be fine. It's nothing formal. It's just be on the inside of the analysis so that they can articulate it to you as well.
Well, I've got the time. I'd be happy to participate in that.
Thank you very much.
That was you, Councilor Morris, as well?
Public comments.
Karen Heck, Ward 6. I don't have COVID, I have a cold. As so many people I've found out do. First, I'd like to just say it was very impressive to listen to what Katie had to say about how Waterville is dealing with homelessness. It's been an issue for as long as I've lived in this city, which is over 50 years, and I really am impressed with the broad range of options that the homeless shelter, and I know that there's a lot of coordination with many other organizations, and I think that Waterville should be feeling really good about that, although I don't think that it's good to feel good about homelessness. The fact that they're able to use a variety of ways to support people, not just to house people, but to support people and get people off is critical. So thank you to Katie and to all of you who are supporting that work in the Housing Committee. I'm here tonight because I was sad when the chief left, that there wasn't really more of a recognition of the amazing work that he's done over the years that he's been the chief of this town. And I asked Acting Chief Bonnie if he would mind if I did some kind of awareness about Project Operation Hope, which Bill Bonnie and brought to Joe, and Joe very much embraced, about really working to get people with an addiction the help that they need. So he said yes, and I asked Mike Roy if he would co-sign a letter that I was writing to let people know that there's an opportunity to recognize Joe and to support him. So I want to just read the letter and let people know that this opportunity exists, and that it's there for anybody who wants to recognize Joe and or make a donation in the name of somebody who they know has been struggling. So this is the letter. After 35 years of working for the people of Waterville as a police officer and as chief of police, Joe Massey has retired. For those of us who have been lucky enough to work with the chief, we know how much blood, sweat, and tears Joe has put into what has been more than a job for him. From dealing with petty theft to abduction and murder, his main focus has been to protect the safety of the citizens of Waterville. One of the programs created in his tenure dealt with escalating and endless tragedy of addiction for families and the community. He understood that we cannot arrest our way out, that addiction is a disease, and that helping people recover is critical for the health and well-being of individuals, families, and the community. When two of his officers brought a possible solution to his attention, he became a champion of the heroin opiate prevention effort, now known as Operation Hope, and has remained dedicated to making sure that treatment is available and accessible despite the costs involved. Since it began in 2017, Operation Hope has been there for over 398 people, I think it's now over 400, seeking help. Because addiction is powerful and recovery is difficult, success is not measured by the number of people who successfully complete the process, but the fact that it is there for those who do. Operation Hope participant Kimberly Cornforth's words speak for numerous participants when she said, "It saved my life, and it gave me a new quality of life I never knew I could have." The fact that success is difficult means it's not always an easy sell to those who fund other health-related disease efforts. For that reason, we're inviting people who appreciate Chief Massey's long and successful efforts on behalf of the city to acknowledge that appreciation by making a donation to Operation Hope in his honor to ensure critical recovery support is available. Checks can be sent to Operation Hope in care of KB Cap at 101 Water Street, or online at the police page on the city's website. So with best wishes for the holiday and the new year, that's messages from Mike Roy and me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add something and thank you, Karen, for providing this opportunity. I certainly will be donating, and I encourage my fellow councilors to do so as well, because we've certainly it's a wonderful project, and it's a great way to honor the chief.
Anna Holdener, South End Neighborhood Association. So as Steve said, some of our volunteers will be heading down to the trail by the Hathaway. It's called Lehman Island Trail, to clean up some of the area that where folks got flooded out of this summer. This is going to be the 5th time Senna has been down there. We have been trying to take care of this stuff. We've really lucked out with the weather, trying to do a big push before January, when temperatures do drop. Unfortunately, many people are not available to volunteer. So if you are available on Thursday between 10 and 12, you can either reach out to me through the Senate Facebook page, or just show up at the Hathaway Trailhead and be ready for some mud and some snow and some cleaning up. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Patty, we got anybody online?
No one has their hand raised.
All right, I'm going to move on to the consent agenda.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Roll call, Patty?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to old business? Ordinance 247, 2022.
Does someone want to make a
Move
motion?
that
read
we
by-
read everything by title only.
Second.
Patty, roll call.
Thank you. Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. Ordinance 247, 2022, revise and codify ordinances of the City of Waterville.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. We do have a gentleman online from General Code that is going to give us a little brief presentation of the online code. So may I promote him,
Yes.
Mayor? Thank you. Mr. Dumont, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you. You are up, sir. If you'd like to do a brief presentation, we would appreciate it.
Fantastic. I'll do the best that I can. I just gotta figure out. There's the button. Perfect. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
The host did that? Okay. Hmm. I am not sure if I can change that setting in the meeting.
There should be a drop-down menu next to where it says share of your screen. There should be a drop-down menu to the right of it that allows you to have options.
Advanced. Multiple participants can share simultaneously, or
All that is
Yeah.
fine. Any of that.
that one?
Yes.
Can you share now, Mr. Dumont?
Giving it a try. Let's see. Yes, I can. Perfect.
Fantastic.
All right. So hopefully you all can see
We can,
my
sir.
screen.
Yes.
Perfect. Very good. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Zachary Dumont. I am the account manager for General Code for all of New England. I live right down the road in New Hampshire, so I'm very happy to be able to be here with you folks tonight to talk a little bit about what your eCode site is going to look like when it's finally published, which, as I understand, is going to be just around the corner. I'm going to go over the utility of the site very briefly. I'm going to show you a couple of the real important things to know. And of course, once the site is fully published and the code has been adopted, I will be more than happy to come down and do more training sessions to ensure that everybody at the municipal level is comfortable using the site. But also, if there are folks for the public who would like to sign up, our company does offer free trainings throughout the year. But we'll start here with the main landing page. This page is going to look just a little bit different from what most folks see when they're coming to it for the first time as a member of the public. And the reason being is your site is still in the review phase because it hasn't been published. Once it finally is published, most folks are going to see something similar to this, where they're not going to have the ability to log in because they're just members of the public. They'll have standard utilities to access the code, such as an index on the side, and the main code is always going to be in the center here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the features that you get as a municipal user later, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what the site looks like for folks who are showing up for the first time. So When you go on to look at your code, most people are just going to go to the main home page and they're just going to scroll down and look for whatever they're looking for. So whether that's property maintenance, zoning, vehicles and traffic, anything to that effect, this is where all your legislation is going to lie. If you click on any of the individual chapters, find one with a little bit more content in there, you'll notice that you have your attachments up at the top, so any sort of PDFs, any hyperlinks that we need to include in there are going to be immediately available when you first go in. As you work your way down the code, you'll see the various sections that you can jump to simply by clicking on them, or you can go ahead and scroll all the way down through. You can also select individual sections of the code if you wanted to, for example, email a link to those, or if you wanted to download a PDF copy. As Waterville is signed up for the premium version of eCode, you'll have access to all of the services that we offer for the platform. So most communities you'll find have access to this PDF option. We're going to ignore Word for now. But if somebody were coming to a meeting and you were discussing your administrative code, Chapter 5, they could select Chapter 5, quickly download a PDF copy, print it out, and bring it with them to the meeting. You can also select these chapters and get updates should you want to look, should you want to be notified anytime portions of the code changes. You just select the chapters, get updates, and you can submit your email address, and anytime those chapters change, you're going to get a notification for it. On the left-hand side of your code page, there are a couple of options. The charter, you'll notice, is going to look exactly like the rest of the code will. It is separated from the code just to make it easier to navigate, but it's still going to be there. Along with normal code updates, any charter updates will be affected as well, and those will get supplemented in as new legislation is adopted. You'll see down here in new laws, anytime a new law has been passed by the city, you'll send it to general code, and we're going to stick it in this new laws section. So over here on Westbrook, for example, they have 4 new items that are pending. These are pieces of legislation that were adopted by the city but have not yet been incorporated alongside the rest of the code. These are still fully searchable alongside the rest of the code, but they live here outside until the community is ready to actually insert them in. You'll notice that these PDFs, you can click on them and they'll open right up at the top, and you can go through and find any of the information that you're looking for. You'll also see down here, there's a notes feature. We have one note in the code. If you, as the city manager or a member of a committee or as the city clerk, feel that you need to highlight certain parts of your code, whether it's simple informational purpose items, in this case, alerting that this version of the code is a draft, or in the case of Avon, Mass, where they have notes placed throughout their code linking to various parts of their city, of their town website, such as the town clerk webpage, annual reports, and items like license applications, in this case for dog licenses. Anybody who is a member of the public will be able to see these items without having to log in or do anything special. They can go through and have full access to the code 24/7. These sites, knock on wood, never go down. We use Amazon Web Services to ensure that, and thank God for Amazon, right? If you are a member of are an employee of the community or a member of a committee and you want to have access to eCode from a municipal standpoint, you can get signed up for a login. Folks who are logging into the code, just click the login button right up at the top. They'll enter in their information, hit the login button, and you'll notice we get this little admin tab now that we already had over here since we are technically logged into the City of Waterville's code. When you log in, a couple things will change. You're going to get this button to add notes, and then in the download section, this Word document version becomes available. As a member of the public, it's grayed out. The public doesn't get access to that. What we offer to municipal employees is the ability to download a section, either the entire code or various pieces of the code, for if you are looking to draft changes. What we see a lot of communities use, for example, is if they were updating their animals chapter, they just select chapter 110, download, and they grab a Word copy. And then from there on their desktop, they can go through, turn on the editing feature and track changes feature, and start making those changes. So it makes drafting new legislation significantly easier, so there's no copy and paste moving stuff back and forth. Bear with me 1 second. You'll also notice over here we got an Archives tab. As your code is updated, supplemented over the course of the years, anytime there's an update made to the code, we're going to save the previous version, and we'll always have the newest version right up there at the top. The members of your public are always only ever going to see the current version, but if you, for example, needed to go back and look at some legislative history to see what sections of the code used to look like, you can simply click on that. You'll get a little pop-up telling you what year and month you're looking at, and you'll be able to click through and see the code. And then to return back to normal, you can just go to hit return to current version. Rentham, for example, I'm not able to log into Rentham right now. We're doing some work on it. But Rentham, for example, I think they have almost 6 years. Our longest code I was looking at the other day had 12 years worth of archives on there. So it's a fairly nifty tool to use, especially if whether it's a city solicitor who needs to go back. But it's something that we want you to know that you have access to. Because we're publishers of your data. We're never going to take it away. We want you to know that it's always going to be there at your disposal. I'm going to just bump into this admin tab real quick to show you a couple of items. Anybody who is a member of the municipality who's going to be added as a user can either be added as an administrator or as a municipal user. Currently in Waterville, it's myself and Patty, so we'll have to start populating that once the code is published. And the reason why I'm using Westbrook is there's not many options right now to use because we're still in a draft version of your code. But you can go through, you can amend your site settings to adjust the color scheme and the banner. Banners can also become hot links back to the city website. So that way there, if you ever wanted to just click back over to your community site, you can update that hyperlink as you change your city site. There are also a couple of other items in here you can tweak to make your site a little bit more user-friendly. One of the features that you can turn on and off is this translation feature of the code. Perfect. I'm going to show you on Avon Mass's code. This just uses Google Translate, but we as public servants need to make sure that our laws are available to every member of the community. And you're able to do something as simple as give folks the ability to look at your code either in Chinese or Lithuanian or whatever native language that they prefer to use. It's not perfect since it's Google Translate, but it does give you a good opportunity to be able to connect with your community in a way that doesn't add any costs and doesn't take a lot of effort. One of my favorite things to point out for municipal users is this dashboard feature off to the side here. One of the things that we hear a lot from communities is, how often is my code being looked at? What are the key search terms that folks are asking? We had one community where they were debating accessory dwelling units, and we got the question, how often are people looking at this? How relevant is it? We actually track all that information and deliver it there for you. So right at the top of the dashboard, you can see when your code is most frequently checked. So in this case, over the course of last year, May was really popular for Westbrook. In the last 30 days, police officers, parking, towing, parking setback, all very important questions for folks who are members of the public looking to figure this out. And the reason we know that it's members of the public who are looking at it is because this little option here, if we were to toggle it to see who was checking as a logged in user of the code, it would update the search terms and the usage statistics. It's going to take a second. But in this case, you'll see these numbers change radically, and it looks like in the last 30 days, the number 80 was really important for one person. There are a couple other tabs down here. They're not really important. One of them is titles. This will tell you how many times, or rather when we initially printed the code volumes and how many copies we printed at that time. And then there's a little bit of job history for every time we supplement your code. Right now, because we've made no changes, because your code hasn't been adopted yet, over the next 5 to 10 years, as you update your code, you'll see that those items will populate little by little. Some communities update their code multiple times a year. Some wait, once a year. Depends on how legislatively active they are. But those metrics are available for you to use.
Zach, on that point, does that mean that it's possible using that functionality to go back and look at an archival, the archival language of previous code?
Yeah. Let me pop open. So for example, if we were to look at the general provisions tab, I'm not sure if there's a specific change that we would see, but this is Westbrook looking back at 2020 versus 2022. And you can pull that language up side by side or just in alternating tabs like I have here. So you'll notice it looks like it does change ever so slightly, but that's always going to be available for you to go back and take a peek at. I'm going to close this real quick. One other item that I do like to point out, we spent about 9 months overhauling this feature down here called public documents. Currently, you don't have any public documents to upload to your site. Once your code has been published, you'll be able to get that functionality, and it's going to live right below where it says notes. Once you log in, you have a couple of options. I'm actually going to pop over to Rentham, Mass, because they have significantly more. But you have the ability to either create new categories of public documents. So I know in Maine, contract zones tends to be something that comes up quite frequently. You can create your own contract zone category. You can save that, and it would pop up as an option to add documents to. But if you were to use one that was already there, in this case, public agendas, you can go through and upload either a searchable PDF or a Word document simply by clicking Add Document and then uploading. That document that you upload will then be fully searchable alongside your code. And for reference, hopefully I spelled license correctly, when somebody goes on to look for all those references, you'll see over here on the left-hand side, I typed in dog license, we got 88 references for code, but it was also mentioned 380 times in public documents. And then you can go down and filter through whether you're looking specifically for minutes. If so, what kind of minutes? I want to see Board of Health. And then I can go even further and look at the year that I want to see. So those are a couple of the key features that I like to point out. I do want to take some time to see if there are any questions that jump out at folks.
So the city solicitor stepped out for a minute. Maybe this is a question for him, but the legally binding copy of the city code still has to be in print somewhere here in the city. Is that correct? Or I mean, how is this backed up?
We will keep an official copy in the city clerk's office vault.
And that is the official copy.
Right.
This is simply a
So that if the
tool.
site goes down or whatever, we still have access to the most recent code.
Right, and this is all on what server? Where does all this
Well,
live?
this is a link to their server. We'll have a
Yes.
link to them.
They have the
through our
server.
website. Correct. They protect the documents.
So part of what Waterville contracts with General Code is we host all of the code data in our digital code base. It's freely available to the public. Our servers are running through Amazon Web Services, which is where 90% of businesses go through these days to ensure that they're secure and that they stay up and running. If you were to ever want to see our code library, you can go to the General Code website, and right here up at the top, Code Library, every single community that we work with, all 3,200 codes that are currently on eCode, are all available here. In your case, you'd click on the state of Maine. Once it loads, you'll scroll all the way down to where it's going to be.
Oh, I love all of this. This
So
is
yeah,
amazing.
it'll be right over here. It's gonna
Yeah,
move
sure.
wells
Use
over
this
one.
properly. It's-
But it's right there. It's a simple click on it and there you go. A lot of communities though, they'll leave on their town website, typically, I'm gonna see if there's one here. Usually they'll put a little button somewhere on the home page that says city ordinances or municipal code.
I like their.
How much is this costing us, Steve?
That's right.
There's an annual fee for the access to the online code service. I don't recall.
Annual fee is billed at $1,200 a year. It's $1,195.
Yep.
$1,200 a year.
Yeah.
We do bill individually for supplements to the
Yes.
code. Typically, supplementation is billed out for time and material. So if you send us 40 pages of code material versus 4 pages of code material, we bill what we actually have to do to get your code updated. As I mentioned earlier, some communities wait to officially bring everything into the code. So those items will sit there over in the new laws section. They're still available to the public, but for example, this Article 17 just isn't yet in the code on the main page here. A couple of the things though that are helpful in that case is if folks come to the home page and they're not really sure if there are any changes that are out there, we actually give you this little indicator over here. It's a paper scroll with a little ribbon on it. And if you highlight over it, it actually says new laws have been added that affect this part of the code. If you click on that chapter, you get this big pop-up right at the top that says what the new laws are. So even though you haven't paid us to incorporate it into the code officially, it's still getting published there.
Brandon?
What was the reason for this? Is there an overwhelming demand in the city for this type of service?
Well, currently we had been managing our code in-house. And so over time, there's a lot of different formatting for all of the various codes. They're all individual documents. The accuracy of the updates, we'd like to think it's accurate, but I can't guarantee over time. We've had several staff members managing it over time. We're not attorneys, and we have a lot of other things going on. So, it's just been, this is a professional service. It standardizes the formatting. It makes it searchable online, and it has those searching and download tools available. So, we're kind of coming up to speed and producing a more professional document.
It also makes it profoundly easier, if I'm understanding this correctly, to draft new code.
Right.
Yeah.
A tool that you folks might be interested in terms of drafting new code, when you log in as a municipal user, over here on the right-hand side, this is going to be a button called Multicode. If you click on this, you're going to see right up here at the top this button to add all codes. We currently have 3,076 codes that are available on the eCode platform. You can go through state by state, county by county, and even government type. You can also search within a certain distance of a zip code or by population to see what other codes are out there. So for example, if you wanted to look at Connecticut, now we don't have anybody in Litchfield County, but let me grab Maine because that's where we are tonight. So we can look at all the Maine codes, grab them just by hitting the little plus button and looking for a reference to dwelling. It's going to take a minute, but it'll sort through all that code, and then you can go through and figure out what exactly you're looking for to get new code ideas or code language without having to draft it in-house. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not hyper intelligent here where it's going to reconcile that with any sort of conflicts with state constitutions, disparities between constitutions. Is that right?
Correct. We assume that when you pass laws, you've had your city solicitor sign off to make sure that it falls within state statutes. When we do a codification project, most communities opt into having us perform a legal and editorial analysis prior to publication. Some communities, they want us to do that after we've published, and then they make the updates later. At that time, we're able to go through and say, okay, we know based on Maine state statutes, this is where the standards are, and then this is where your code documents rate. This is what we recommend for changes. Most codifications are good 15 to 20 years. So you do a project like this in 2000, we would say by 2020, get a new analysis done, check to make sure that everything's lined back up, make sure that the format still makes sense, etc. Unfortunately, we don't update every single code as state statutes change because that would require a municipality to actually institute that change internally.
Yeah.
It's a great resource to have, but I would never say it's 110% accurate. It's a very good jumping off point to get into something.
Sure.
Councilor Frankie.
What's the timeline for this? If we vote on this and approve it tonight, when does this take effect?
It actually takes effect 21 days after passage per our ordinance, but we do have the ability to publish the code immediately. So we can it's the same exact language that we currently have in place. We're just renumbering, restructuring, reformatting. So we have the ability to make it go live tomorrow if it passes today.
So the editor who's been working with you folks, Claudia, whenever you folks are ready to move forward, you simply send her an email or call her and she's on it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it'll take to get the printed copies. It might take a couple weeks to actually have the printed version sent out, but you'll have the online resource. You can get as many PDF copies as you need if you needed to print something quickly, but once you have the physical code book, that's your tone.
Right.
Any more discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Thank you, Zach.
You're very welcome.
Councilor Gilly,
Yes.
Councilor DeBrito,
Yes.
Councilor Klepak,
Yeah.
Councilor Green,
Yes.
Councilor Morris,
Yes.
Councilor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to new business, Order 250, 2022.
Uno momento.
I'm going to stop sharing. I think
Yes. Yep. Thank you, Zach.
you're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay. Sorry, I'm just
Nope.
catching up.
We just had a long presentation, you're okay.
We're on Order 250,
Yeah.
2022. Amendment to Seton Hospital Redevelopment Municipal Tax Increment Financing District and adoption of related development plan.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Any further discussion? Oh, Claude, you want to read your statement so everybody understands what's going on again?
For anybody that wasn't at the public meeting earlier, council is being asked to amend the tax increment financing district for the former Seton Hospital building. When the district was formed in 2017, it encompassed the whole building and adjacent parking lot and had a 20-year duration. The percentage of captured revenue to be shared with the developer was scheduled to be 70% in 2023, declining to 0% in 2037. It is proposed that the original district be amended by splitting off the tower and part of the parking lot, which is to be included in a new affordable housing TIF district. The remaining portion of the original district would continue to adhere to the terms of the original district, although the term would be extended to 2047. The developer has estimated that once development occurs, there would be a $1 million increase in assessed value captured by the TIF district. Over the remaining duration of the district, at the current mill rate, $620,000 would be collected to be shared between the developer, $124,000, and the city, $496,000. So, that's for the first one. That's
All right.
That's the amendment.
We'll stop there.
The TIF committee has recommended that we that council vote to amend the district as proposed.
Agreed. Any questions? All right, Patty, can I get a roll call?
Councilor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor Brito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yep.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Order 251, 2022.
Move to
Desi-
adopt.
I'm sorry, designation of Seton Tower Affordable Housing Development and Tax Increment District.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Claude, you got a second piece?
Okey-doke. The developer has proposed creating a new affordable housing district for the tower portion that will provide 67 units of affordable housing defined by federal housing regulations. The developer is requesting a 30-year duration with captured revenue being split 50-50 with the city. The developer has estimated that once development occurs, there will be a $5 million increase in assessed value captured by the TIF district. Over the remaining duration of the district at the current mill rate, approximately $3,748,000 of increased revenue would be captured and allocated to the TIF program. The developer's proposal shares this allocation between the developer, $1,874,000, and the city, $1,874,000. This amounts to a subsidy to the developer of approximately $65,000 per year. The city proposes to allocate its annual share of captured revenue this way: a quarter to support schools, a quarter for public safety and infrastructure, and half to create a revolving loan program for affordable housing. Again, the TIF committee has recommended that the council vote to create this new TIF district.
Any other counselors? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to Order 252, 2022.
Authorize the transfer of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds to the general fund.
And this was the $100,000 to the general fund for emergencies.
We need a motion,
Oh, go ahead.
please.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you.
Now it's the $100,000 for the emergencies. Is that what we're moving over? All right.
Yep.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
I
Oh,
mean, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
So those funds, they can be used by any Waterville citizens? Does it have like stipulations or anything like that?
So, it's sort of going to help all the people that don't generally qualify for general assistance. It's sort of like that next tier up. The people. I'm not.
Is there an
So the idea is that it would be administered through the city's health and welfare department or another department that needed funding for something like emergency shelter. So, if there were a cost there that they needed to move quickly to, for instance, setting up a larger structure like a tent or something, or even purchasing a tent. So we're saying to the city, we trust you to respond in a way that is appropriate to emergencies that might arise
And meaningful.
with these funds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think it's appropriate, especially seeing how that department went up last year in cost. So I think that's a very smart move.
And it gives us flexibility. It gives us flexibility to help people in the moment when it's needed. We don't have to worry about coming back to council.
Exactly. There are a couple members of the ARPA committee here, too. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything. But, no,
All right.
okay.
Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yep.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to Resolution 253, 2022.
Authorize the city manager to execute an agreement between Northern Light Continuing Care Lakewood and the city of Waterville.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Steve, you want to tell us about it?
Yes, just briefly, this is an agreement that's required by the Northern Lights Insurance Company so that Waterville ambulances can transport people from the nursing home to and from the hospital. It is required by their insurance company. It's a standard kind of agreement that we enter into, but it does require your approval.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chief, transports make us more money?
The short answer is yes to your question. However, this is related to times of emergency and
Okay.
specifically with crisis planning.
Done deal. Still got to take care of them. Thank you. Any other discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak.
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 254, 2022.
Authorize the fire chief to execute an agreement between the Maine Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, and the Central Maine Regional Response Team.
Move to adopt.
Second.
This is also a required agreement between us and MEMA. The fire chief can give you a little bit more of an explanation than I. It's somewhat more complicated than the previous one.
Good, Chief.
Good evening. For many years, long before I became the fire chief and long before I even joined the fire department, the Waterville Fire Department has also functioned as the Central Maine Emergency Response Team to respond to hazardous materials incidents throughout Kennebec, Somerset, and Waldo counties, serving over 200,000 residents. And we're really proud of our team, and we've done it for a long time. Fortunately, there are very few incidents we actually have to respond to. What this MOU essentially does is this provides us the framework to operate the team out of the Waterville Fire Department. It also provides $15,000 in annual funding to help support the team. And it also provides us with liability insurance when the team is activated. So when the team is activated, either by responders initiating it, us being activated through MEMA, or we can be activated directly at the request of the governor, it then becomes a state expense at that point. So this memorandum of understanding just establishes the framework for the team and allows us to continue to operate as we always have.
Any questions? Councilor Green?
Is this something that new, or is this something that's typically been in place?
This has been in place for probably 20 years, to my knowledge. We're just formalizing the agreement, and this is something that we generally execute every couple years.
Councilor Klepak and Councilor Frankie.
How frequently, Chief, how frequently is the Central Maine Regional Response Team activated?
I would say about 3 times a year, and generally we can take care of most incidents with what we call a forward team, which is a very small team of individuals that go out, do an initial investigation, and sometimes solve the problem. I'll give you an example, a white powder incident. So for example, if there was a white powder incident, reported at City Hall, we would send a couple people down. We would probably be able to identify what the substance was, and we wouldn't have a full activation of the team. So again, short answer to your question, 2 or 3 times a year.
I see.
Councilor Frankie.
My question was answered.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak.
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Order 255, 2022.
Accept a donation from the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Chief, you want to tell us about it?
I certainly can. First of all, I just want to highlight the good work of our employees. I'm very fortunate in the fire department that I have some really, really good people that work for us. And in this particular case, one of our battalion chiefs, Mark Hamilton, was made aware of the Stephen King Foundation. We've done some grant work with them in the past, and we determined that with our EMS service, the need for an additional cardiac monitor was there. He applied for it through a simple application online, and typical with the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation, there's no forward alert that you've got the award or it scored high. They just send you a check in the mail, which
Cool.
I can't say, how much we appreciate that, of course, but I will say this is not the first time that Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation has donated to the city in this capacity. I believe we're over $100,000 in contributions over the last several years. So our cardiac monitors are used on every single call. We've been on over 2,300 EMS calls since July 1st. So this is a critical piece of equipment that will be used, throughout the facility. So anytime that one of our employees wants to take it upon themselves and do some extra work and do great work, we're certainly going to highlight that. So I really appreciate our staff for going above and beyond.
As somebody who might need one of these, we take as many as you want.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Hey, Chief, please make sure to express the council's gratitude to Mark, if you would.
Oh, absolutely, and we really appreciate the kind remarks, and I'll make sure he hears it. Like I said before, and I want to be very clear, we have an organization filled with brilliant people that really care about this city, so thank you.
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to ordinance 256, 2022.
Amend the zoning ordinance 84 College Avenue.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor, which one is that one? 84 College Ave.
AstroTurf.
Okay.
So should we just fill people in on what we're voting on here?
This was a matter that was sent by the council to the planning board for its consideration. It has come back with a full recommendation of the entire planning board to rezone the property to the requested designation, which will enable them to engage more broadly in their business with cannabis.
Yes, it was.
So, right, so the issue here is that the property was located in the CC1 zone, which does not allow for cannabis operation, but there was a bad timing because the notification letter went out to the previous owner. It had been sold and the address hadn't been updated, so the owner never received the notification, didn't realize that this change had been made, and so we are recognizing that.
And as I understand, that's what the planning board they based their decision on. Is that correct?
Yes.
That failure to get timely notice due to the
Yeah, so they recommended that unanimously that you approve. We've done this a few times, and I'm gonna be really brief, and I said it last time, where this is really one of the last ones where we're cleaning up some issues when we rezone that to CC1. I think there's a general sense that we're done doing it. Like, at this point, if you have a medicinal marijuana facility or you want a rec facility, that the city's not looking to rezone properties so that you can continue to do it. I joke, and I was joking with Mike earlier, where I affectionately call College Avenue the Green Mile. So I think at this point, it's sort of moot. I think anyone who needed a license should have gotten one. We're not going to change any more locations to make it fit. We have enough. We have a lot of shops. I don't want to limit them. I always say jokingly that they will weed themselves out. But the market will take care of it. Waterville will only be able to support so many stores. We have to remember that we have 17,000 residents, but at any time during the day, there's 2 to 3 times that many people shopping or working in our city. So we're gonna see more than other towns. We are the service center, we're the shopping center, but we don't need them everywhere. Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Order 257, 2022.
Approve an easement for a standpipe on city property, Castongway Square.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
Vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 258, 2022.
Authorize the issuance of a victualer's license to Nicholas Cosmitis doing business as Waterville House of Pizza.
Any discussion?
Move to
Sorry.
adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call? You all right?
Okay. Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yes.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
Counselor McCormick is not here.
No.
The vote is 6-0, the motion passes.
All right. Moving on to counselor comments. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I would request a motion to waive cloture. There's a lady in the audience that has a secondhand dealer's license that I failed to get on the agenda. She was in a timely manner. Her name is Heidi Moody. She's requesting a secondhand dealer's license for Friends Consignment at Railroad Square. And it would be Resolution 259.
Move
So-
to waive cloture.
Second.
You want to tell us about it? Now's your shameless plug.
We
Can-
have
Oh, sorry.
Can we,
Wait, wait,
can we
wait.
make,
to vote. We
yeah,
have to
let's
vote to close.
vote on this first. Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yeah.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie.
Yes.
The vote is 6 in favor and 0 opposed. So now we can move to put it on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Now you want to tell us about it? We need you up there.
There's a
Oh,
microphone.
you know, you knew I was putting you on the spot.
Thank you.
My name is Heidi Mooney. I'm going to be opening up Friends Consignment and More January 3rd. Hopefully it's opening day. I got a lot of work to do. I've been in the consignment business for 11 years, managed a business for over 5 years. I love the community. They need a place. So come on down to Railroad Square. We're going to have a little bit of everything. So,
This is in the old theater.
huh?
Where is it? It's in the old theater.
So it's near the old theater, but it's not. I'm on the Main Street side. So I'm right beside Harry. He's got the violin store.
Oh, okay.
And
You're in
then
the other strip
guitarist
mall.
is
Yeah.
down the way. We got a massage therapist across the way.
Yeah,
and there's
yeah,
a
yeah.
little quilt lady right beside me.
Great. Yeah.
It's a nice little community.
You gonna
Yeah.
have parking?
Yes. Yes. I'm on the parking side.
Her landlord owns the parking
I
lot.
just want to make sure.
That's
Okay.
Yeah. Different story.
Thank you. Great.
what a mess.
Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yeah.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
voted 6 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to move on to counselor comments. Anyone? All right, seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Counselor Frankie.
I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Oh,
Do the same.
Thank you,
Happy
you as well.
Hanukkah
And I'll wish everyone a happy Hanukkah.
yeah.
And whatever else you celebrate this winter. I mean, we're not going to see anybody for New Year's, so.
Hallelujah.
All right, executive session. Somebody want to take us
I'd
into
like to
executive?
move that we go into executive session.
And that is pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 405-6E, consult with legal counsel.
And when we come back, we're just closing out the meeting. We're not voting on anything else, so, I mean, you guys can kick around if you want to, but it's essentially the end of the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Shall I take a roll call?
Please.
Counselor Gilly,
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito,
Yes.
Counselor Klepak,
Yep.
Counselor Green,
Yes.
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Frankie,
Yes.
voted 6 in favor and 0 opposed.